Hi again everyone, and welcome to another Heroes of the Grid Ranger video. Today I'm going to be talking about Lauren Shiba, the Super Samurai Red Ranger. To start, her deck layout in terms of shields is the standard that most Rangers have. She has 3 shield cards, 4 2 shield cards, and 3 1 shield cards, for a total of 20 shields. I don't think it's something I mentioned in the others, but their shields always add up to 20. Lauren's character card is True Focus. At the end of each battle, add 1 energy to your personal storage, if you do not have one already. This ability isn't necessarily indicative of the role she plays, because I found Lauren to be kind of a pseudo mixture of Jason, who's kind of a supporter, which a lot of Red Rangers do, and Zack, in the sense that she deals splash damage to enemies. And you'll see that as we go through her cards. So this ability isn't, like I said, doesn't necessarily flow with her deck in terms of the types of cards you'll see, but it's just a very good ability to have anyway, because most Rangers, let's say you have 1 foot soldier left, and most Rangers, if they only have 1 energy left in the pool and they don't have any stored, they won't necessarily want to spend the energy in the pool, because at the end of the battle they'll get any energy that's left over. With Lauren, it doesn't matter, because if she doesn't have one at the end, she automatically gets one regardless of how many are left in the pool. So you can be a little more carefree with her energy. The first card in Lauren's deck is Strafe Burst, a 0-cost 2-dice attack with 2 shields for defense. Its ability says, for each blank rolled during this attack, deal 1 damage to an enemy card adjacent to your target. So this is a perfect example of the splash damage that Lauren can dish out. So there's kind of really no drawbacks to this card, with the exception being unless you want to take out the target that you're going up against. So let's say you want to get rid of the guard card. If you roll 2 blanks, you're kind of out of luck. You don't do any damage to them, but you still do 2 damage to an adjacent enemy card. So you could strategically use this to target a card with the guard keyword, but I'd hope that you roll blanks, so that way you can deal the damage to whatever it's protecting, if that's your real target. So like I said, it's a very strategic card. Her next card is Burnout, a 1-cost 3-dice attack with 2 shields for defense. Its ability says, after rolling, you may choose 1 die from this attack and deal its damage to an enemy card adjacent to the target instead. So this is a less powerful version of the Power Axe. You still roll 3 dice for only 1 energy, but the drawback, as opposed to the Power Axe, where you should choose 2 of the dice and deal that damage to all adjacent enemy cards, this only deals damage to 1 adjacent enemy card. Not only that, the die that you choose is taken out of that initial damage to the target. So if you roll 2 criticals and 1 regular hit, if you choose one of the criticals to do to the adjacent target, that's -2 to the initial target for the attack. You're only doing 3 damage to the enemy you're targeting, and that damage goes to the adjacent target. It's still a very good card. You can use it very strategically and is very helpful, but just so you know, that's how it's different from the Power Axe. So like I said, Burnout's still a very good card for only 1 energy, being able to potentially take out a foot soldier if you roll a critical hit and use that as the splash damage. Next is Hold the Line, a 0-cost maneuver with 3 shields for defense. Its ability says, gain 1 energy. Each ranger in this battle may draw 1 card and then place 1 card from their hand back on top of their deck. It's a maneuver card that gives you an energy, and it lets rangers kind of prepare for an attack. Let's say they know it's an enemy card or a boss card that's going to deal damage to every single ranger. This gives them some energy so they can prepare for the next attack, but also they can draw a card, potentially maybe draw a power weapon or some other type of card that will help in the next ranger turn, or maybe even a card that will lower the damage. If nothing else, then they can place a card with high shield value on top of their deck and then take the attack. All the rangers will have a better chance of surviving the oncoming assault. So I think it's very appropriately named Hold the Line. Next is one of my favorite cards in the game, Discipline, a 0-cost reaction with 1 shield for defense. Its ability says, when any ranger performs an attack, play this card to allow that ranger to reroll any number of dice. Now, Lauren is not the only ranger that has this card, but she was the first. There's at least 2 other rangers I can think of who have this card in their deck. And there's a reason for that is because it's very good. This is basically Jason's leadership ability in combat card form. Let's say somebody's using their power weapon, Kimberly rolling 6 dice, she rolls all blanks. Lauren could play Discipline, so Kimberly can reroll all of those dice for a second chance. And she has 2 of these in her deck, so if you have both in your hand, you have 2 potential do-overs. But like I said, yeah, this card was so good that multiple Rangers have it in their deck, and it's a very useful card. Next is... Now, Lauren's the only Samurai Ranger that's been released so far, in terms of from the seasoned Samurai. Power Ranger Samurai and Super Samurai. But my best guess is that this card, this next card is going to be the Blade Blaster of the group, and that card is Spin Sword. A 1-cost, 3 dice attack with 1 shield for defense. Its ability reads, before rolling, you may spend any amount of energy to add that many dice to this attack. So you spend 1 energy for 3 dice, which is standard, and any extra dice you want to add, you just spend the energy that if you have it, and this can potentially get very high. Unfortunately, it doesn't spread any damage or anything like that, but hey, the more dice you roll, the better chance you have of landing criticals and dealing high damage. Like I said, I think this is probably going to be the Blade Blaster of the Samurai team, but who knows, I could be wrong. Could be something completely different. Next is what I consider her power weapon. It's Black Box, a 2-cost maneuver with 3 shields for defense. Its ability says you may immediately play another card. If it is an attack, double the damage dealt by that attack. The reason I say I believe this is the power weapon is because it's the highest cost card in her deck, and it has 3 shields. Another important note is that it says you may immediately play another card, so it has to be you who plays it. Lauren's the only one who can. Unless you're playing a mode where you control 2 Rangers, but that's a whole different story. But in a standard game, only Lauren can play a card after playing the Black Box, and if it's an attack, you can double the amount of damage, which is great. Let's say you decide to use the Spin Sword because you have tons of energy to spare, and you decide to spend 3 extra energy to get 6 dice, and you get, let's say you only get 4. Because of the Black Box, that damage is doubled. It's now dealing 8 damage. Again, it doesn't spread the damage, unless you use the Black Box in conjunction with, let's say, Burnout or Strafe Burst. In which case, then you can take let's say Burnout, if you roll a critical hit, you can take that critical hit, take it away from the initial target, and deal 4 damage because of Black Box to an adjacent target instead. So Black Box is very good, it's just very limiting because it's only available to Lauren, basically. But hey, if you need to deal high damage, then that's always a good option to go. Finally, we're going to go over her Zord, which is the Bull Zord. Its ability says, exhaust this card when any ranger plays a card to reduce that card's energy cost by 1. If it is an attack, add 1 die to that attack. I love the fact that it's when any ranger plays a card, so it can be any ranger playing any card. It doesn't have to be an attack, it can be a reaction or maneuver. Its cost is reduced by 1, but if it's an attack, it gets an extra die added to it, kind of like the Tyrannosaurus that I always like being able to add dice. So, I mean, obviously the possibilities are, just about endless with this card. Reduce any power weapon, let's say, by 1, so odds are you're going to be only paying 2 energy. Let's say you use Tommy's Dragon Dagger, you're now rolling 4 dice. Rolling 4 dice twice. And then you could use the Dragon Zord if you deal excess damage to spread it out to another target. Like I said, yeah, there's just so much combo potential with the Bull Zord. Looking at Lauren, her cards, she has 2 copies of Hold the Line, 2 copies of Strafe Burst, 2 copies of Burnout, 2 copies of Discipline, 1 copy of Spin Sword, and 1 copy of Black Box. She's a very, very good ranger. A little hard to use, I'll say, because I used her on my team, but I'll tell you when I get to that, I'll tell you about how I used her. Still good, though. Like I said, I'm not going to say that she's bad or anything. Yeah. And that's pretty much it for Lauren. Next should be the video where I cover the previous 4 Rangers when I used them as a team in a game I played recently. So look forward to that. Until then, head on over to OnceRanger.com, check out the full card database, and affiliate links will be below. Thank you very much. Bye.